Heyo, what's up, everybody? It's episode number 201 of the Audible Farm podcast. This episode's brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. Couchtown Coffee is roasted right here in Iowa. All you got to do is go to their website, make an order, and when you do, they'll roast coffee specifically for you and ship it to your house. Then all you have to do is grind it up and enjoy. It's one of my favorite coffees I've ever had. That's not hyperbole. They're not paying me to say that. I just really enjoy it. So check it out. Go to couchtowncoffee.com. Find a coffee you like, make an order, and when you do, let them know that Audible Farm sent you. They'll give you 20% off. Why? Because Couchtown Coffee's that awesome. Thanks, Couchtown. This episode, I am sitting down with Nesha Grant. It's not Nesha, it's Nesha. We go over that in the podcast, as well as a bunch of other things. This is an interesting one. I haven't really ever sat down and talked to Nesha very much at all. I met her at a jam night. She played a few songs. We've spoken a few times, but we haven't really ever sat down and talked to each other. Like, hi, how are you? Where you're from? What's your name? Is about all I've really gotten out of her. So this is a good one. I sit down and talk with her about all sorts of stuff. Where she got started playing music, some of her biggest influences, the insecurities of starting out, which is some of my favorite things to discuss, because I feel like a lot of us still have phantom feelings of that, no matter how good we get. So there's some of that I feel that goes into a little bit of everything. So I really enjoyed this one because she just was really open and honest with me. And it's just fun that I met somebody that knew somebody else that I knew like third hand. It's weird. We talk about that in the upcoming episode. It's pretty fun. But yeah, we ended up, she's from Oklahoma, and I actually knew somebody that knew who she was, but the person I knew I've never actually met. So it's just kind of weird how it all worked out. But hey, it's a small world. All right, this is a good one. It's episode number 201 with Nesha Grant.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Awesome. All right. So I'm sitting down. It's Nesha, right?
It is Nesha.
Yeah, I had to make sure I got that right. It's crazy. I had somebody named Misha on the podcast recently. So Misha with an M.
Yeah, nice.
So,
I saw that.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It all works out.
A lot of people think it's Nesha, but it's Nesha.
Nesha. Well, I'm sitting down today talking with Nesha Grant. I got the last name right, didn't I?
You did.
I'm nailing this so far. I'm doing good. I actually met you at a jam night, and I didn't really so much meet you. I just kind of saw you play a couple times, and we barely talked. I mean, we have talked, but it's kind of crazy because if I have the story right, you kind of knew, Josh, right? Down in
Yes.
So, and Clint knows Josh.
Yes.
Okay, so let's break this down. Clint Riedl's been on the podcast like a million times, and you know somebody that knows him, and you're from Oklahoma.
Yes.
And somehow you're in the neighborhood working here.
Yes.
And you would stop by for jam nights every now and then and play.
Yeah, so I actually met Clint first time at Shiny Top. It was my first couple weeks in town, and I was following the live music and the jalapeno beer that they have there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so I was listening to Clint while I was at the bar, and in my mind, I'm thinking, this guy's got to be famous, just passing through as far as his songwriting and things like that. Because in Oklahoma, you don't just hear locals where I'm from have that, I want to say, substance in their songs.
Yeah.
And so I guess he noticed that I was listening, and so he came over and introduced himself after his set and said he was from Oklahoma, and one thing led to another, and we have a mutual, I would call Josh an acquaintance, one of Clint's friends, and he invited me to play his break at Bootleggers, and then he
Nice.
told me about jam night, and so I started going out to jam night.
That's awesome. That sounds 100% like Clint, too. It's just like, oh, hi, who are you? Wait, you play? You're going to play at the next show I'm at? Because I need to take breaks, so.
Yeah, very welcoming, very
Yeah.
surprisingly welcoming.
Yeah. It's so funny, because if you see Clint, you're like, ooh, this guy's rough and tumble. And then you like hear his stories when he sings, and it's like, oh, this guy's a big cuddly teddy bear, you know? And you go talk to him, and it's like, and somehow he's even nicer than that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, working away from home as much as I do, it's always so comforting meeting people like him in all these places. I can't say that I've met anyone quite like Clint as far as just being so opening, never met a stranger, it seems like.
Yeah.
And it just helped me kind of adjust faster than I normally would here.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, when I started playing guitar, I started when I was a teenager, but about 5 years ago or so, I started playing in Des Moines because I didn't know anybody. So it was like, this is easy. I don't have that like nerves of like somebody's gonna like judge me, or what if somebody from high school sees me and they're gonna be like, "Woo, you played in a band," or whatever. There's none of that going on. So I was like, I'll just play down there, and I finally got the courage to come play up here, and I played at a lot of jam nights with Clint, and that was kind of what got me going to do a lot of that. And I actually met him through the podcast, like 100% blindly. Like the first episode we did together is actually like us meeting. It's like 10 minutes after we met.
Wow.
So it's kind of crazy. That's how a lot of these go, though, because that's kind of what this is, honestly. So,
Right.
But it's so wild to think that it's such a small world, because I'm actually Facebook friends with Josh as well, because I knew him through Clint, and he was in the area for a few days once, and I was going to go watch him play because he was going to go play somewhere, and then I got booked or whatever, and I just didn't get the opportunity to meet him. But I'm Facebook friends with him, so it was really crazy when I heard that you knew him, and I'm like, how does this work? Like, it's such a crazy coincidence. Like, I don't know. It just blows my mind that you came up here blindly, not knowing any of that, and then somehow you got kind of somewhat brought into the music scene. Have you played any other shows other than the one you played with Clint?
So up here, no.
Up here, no.
No, I think I played 2 of Clint's.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been invited, but it just didn't work out. Mm-hmm. It was either out of town back in Oklahoma one time, or I was working, 96 hours a week. So
gross.
Yeah, definitely gross.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So how did you get interested in music?
Okay, so music has always been a part of my life in some way. I have memories from when I was very young with my uncle. He'd come over with guitar, and I would be in his lap, and he'd be playing the guitar.
Oh, out in front of you?
Out in front of me,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And then my grandmother put me in piano lessons when I was in the 2nd grade, and so that was my first instrument. Fast forward, I do play piano, yeah.
You still do?
Yeah.
Well,
my own style, of course, right? Yeah. Like guitar, but I do. It's an outlet. I guess music has always been a creative expression for me. I've always written poetry, and I've always written instrumentals, but I've never combined the two until probably 2018. I started trying to find that groove.
That's so wild. Like, I just figured that's like such an easy thing. It's just like, I've got cheese and dough and sauce, and I never thought to make a pizza, it's right there in front of you,
Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
There's a piano at the junkyard now. It's a little keyboard thing, so
I did not know that.
You have to swing by the next jam night and maybe plunk away.
Yeah, for sure. I'll nerd out though. Like, I'll just be in my own world for a minute.
I'd take it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like piano is what's missing in a lot of bands around here, and it wasn't until I played with a pianist that I was like, oh, this person can cover a lot of ground that like the rest of the band can't even come close to touching.
Quietly too, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's all in the
discreetly.
background, but if it's not there, it's missing something big.
Yeah.
It's pizza without the cheese or whatever. So
yeah,
it's wild to think about that. So have you ever tried to play piano and sing?
No, I've not. Is the wind getting it?
It is a little bit.
Okay,
that's all right.
No, I've always just been. I would sit in the room because, again, music has always just been in my life. Whether I'm surrounded by musicians and I'm not playing, or I'm playing. And so, like in high school, we would always get together and jam, and I would be on the piano. There'd be a guy on the drums. There'd be a guy on the guitar, and then early 20s, same thing. So I would always just be like pecking the notes.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I'm so used to writing what I'm feeling musically on the piano. It's really hard for me to surge those two together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Weld those two together and get that groove. But that's a goal of mine to start doing.
I think that's also something, though, too, like depending on like what instrument you learned on first to do certain things kind of lends itself more to a certain thing. So like I didn't learn how to play sheet music with guitar and stuff, so most of the stuff I play is just stuff I'm thinking of off the cuff. And then the other end of it is like I learned, and I'm not good at it, but I learned how to play a piano via like taking music theory classes. So like that's where my brain goes to when I want to like try to like think about shapes and and how chords are and things like that. That's actually like what my brain visualizes instead of a guitar, and then I have to like translate it over. So it takes twice as long to do anything if I want to try it with guitar. But so when was the first time you took one of your songs and put it to music? So you said piano, fast forward, guitar next?
Yes.
All right. So somewhere in here we got to be able to plug in the music making.
Right. So piano, and then while I'm doing piano, even in my younger years, I was writing poetry. I didn't have the easiest life, so that was a way to get that out, right? And so I'd write my poetry. I got my guitar when I was 14, set it down, picked it back up at 16, set it back down. And so I guess you could say I was probably 28 years old when 2018 when I first started putting lyrics to my guitar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was, I just wrote both at the same time, the first time that ever happened.
Oh, crazy. That's cool.
Yeah. It's multifaceted.
How many songs have you written? Have you ever, I mean, like, I got a million questions.
Oh, wow.
Do you have thoughts of like going back through all this old poetry that you have and then putting music to it now? Or like, because I imagine if you've been writing poetry that long, it'd just be as simple as just like pulling one up and being like, let's write a song.
Definitely. I probably have over 100 songs that has
gosh.
not seen the light of day. And I have over 1,000 notes on this phone alone, just poetry that comes to me, and I'll just write. Poetry back then is a little too dark for what I'm looking for these days.
You could pass it off to a metal band
exactly,
somewhere.
Exactly. Or, grunge. I've got some good grunge material, I think. But, yeah, that's the goal this next year, is to really focus and be serious about music and my songwriting, more serious than ever. And I have Iowa to thank for that. I've had these strangers just welcome me and support me and encourage me and to keep playing and to tell me that I can do it, and it's helped a ton. So ask that question next year and I'll be better to answer it.
It's so crazy to think though, like, I almost don't want to like fast forward and jump around. I do have questions though. Are you like shy when you play? Because your picture of you on Facebook is you playing guitar.
Yes.
And then I was just like, all right, so let's scroll to the next picture. It's you playing guitar, but yet sometimes when it's like, come up and play at jam night, and you're like, I don't know. And then you'd get up there and play. It's like, I'll just play one. It's like, play another. Everyone's just like, play another one. Like, you just don't want to step on people's toes, or what is it? That
and with the shyness, but more so step on people's toes. My style is a lot different, and that scares me because it's they're either going to accept it or they're going to deny it. And I have a, unsaid fear of rejection. And it's like, let me not face that and just hide at the house.
That is kind of true. But would it be the ultimate, what is it? What's the word I'm thinking of? The ultimate affirmation for your poetry and music writing that is like one of a kind, to just be like, I don't really care if they don't like it. Because I mean, that's kind of, it almost feels like that would be the wheelhouse. Like if you have the attitude you have, like that would be like what you would, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that I'll say revelation came to me within the last few days. I'm not sure exactly when, but it's like, like I'm a reason person. There is a reason that my stuff is different. There is a reason for me that I've always been connected to music, and I've, whatever. I know I need to get out there and do it, and so I'm gonna start eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many had you played before you came up to Iowa? Let me ask you that.
Okay, so my first gig, it was a break. Same thing up here, was July of last year. First time ever, like, saying, oh, Nesha Grant's coming to play. Now, I did open mics before that, a few, not a whole lot. So I would say music career, not really career, but the first time that they asked me to come play was last year in July. I probably did that probably 5 to 10 times. I know that's a broad range. And then I just stopped. And then I actually came, last time I played in Oklahoma was New Year's Eve, and then I came here in February.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's been that recent. That's actually pretty mind-blowing. So I feel like this has been something you've been doing a while by yourself, is what it feels like then, because of how good you are. Is that a thing?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Like,
okay.
No, yeah.
Well, I mean, you would think, like, not having played too many shows and things like that, you'd be kind of rough around the edges, and it doesn't seem like that, So is this something that you spend a lot of time on? Or are you working 96 hours all the time? Or how does this work out here? Like, how do you plug all this into all this time?
Right. No, so when I'm on jobs, I usually play probably 2 or 3 times a week. But when I'm off jobs, I'm playing probably 3 or 4 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
If I'm not working somewhere else. If basically in my free time before I came to Iowa, it was just work guitar, work music, work art. Like, spend a lot of alone time, preferably. And so,
Understandable.
yeah, so I play a lot. I just don't play a lot in public. And that's why I think when I get in public and I start messing up where I usually don't mess up, it throws me off and the whole thing just crumbles, I feel like.
Yeah. So what kind of I have those feelings too, and I do have to say, like, the last podcast, episode 200, woo, if anybody was listening to it, we talked about, like, kind of like what our nerves are before playing shows. But, like, that's one where, like, when you mess up at a show, it's so hard to describe the feeling. It's just like, how do I get back on track? How do I figure out where I'm supposed to be? So if you have a band, it's kind of easy. You just plug right back into where they're at. You don't play any super wrong notes and everything sounds okay, kind of. But if you're, like, by yourself, it's just like, oh, snap, like, where I have to figure out how to plug the words back into this and get the rhythm back on track and play the right chord. So it's a little bit, like, panicky. But one thing that, like, was weird enough that I kind of leaned on as my only justification for this was the fact that whatever song I was up there playing at any given moment, there probably wasn't anyone else in the building that could play that song. That might vary at certain shows, certain jam nights or whatever, but, like, if I'm playing with Three Finger Betty, we're playing a Three Finger Betty song. Nobody else knows this song. Like, who are you to tell me I'm playing the wrong stuff anyways? Like, this is how it's supposed to go or whatever, So you just kind of I don't know, that's what I kind of leaned on as my justification. We're like, this isn't so bad. And then you just have to figure out how to hide the mistake is the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I know in that last episode they were talking about proper hydration. I've noticed that is a major key. So if I'm drinking a while and I haven't had much water, I'm more likely to have errors and mess up and not be able to recover as smoothly as I would. That was just a thought I had, and then I heard it on the last episode, and I was like, I'll be damned. I'm not the only one that thinks that.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely the drummer that brought that up at a show on the last podcast. But yeah, it's totally a thing. Like, I played a show recently. It was like whatever, like 90 some degrees outside, and it was just like an all day outside show kind of deal. And it was, by the time it was all said and done, I was so gassed, but I drank like 5 bottles of water leading up to it, and I was still just like sweating all over. And it definitely, I think it helps. And I think about people like you that are singers as well, because I'm not predominantly a singer, but if you're singing the whole show, like, I think about how much inhaling and exhaling you're doing, and then you got to think, like, the moisture's coming out, so you're losing moisture by inhaling and exhaling, and then if you're doing that repetitively,
right,
you're going to need water, even if you're not sweating, plus, like, you got to get, like, your lemon water, your honey water, or whatever, if you're singing, to get your voice all coated up. But
for sure, yeah, that's something I've not done the best at is voice maintenance, I guess, vocal cords, because in my mind, I'm just at home. I don't need to, but yeah, that's a good tip. I didn't realize lemon honey water would help. So
yeah, I don't know.
People
have arguments one way or the other. I just drink a milkshake and go up there and call it good. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Milk was a bad choice. No. Oh, man. So, do you play any other instruments?
That's a loaded question. I'll play anything that you put in front of me. Whether I'm obviously not skilled at it, but I always kind of have a basis of the instruments. So I sat behind my first set of drums probably in 2017, 2019, just going along with a song, and it, not to yank my own chain, but it blew my mind, that I wasn't just terrible, and I'd never done that before. But again, like, music has always been a part of my life. I was in every band, middle school, high school, so I get the concept of rhythm. So no, I play harmonica some. I'll harmonize on harmonica, and if you get me the tambourine, I will bang that thing.
So, you said you were in bands in, like, junior high and high school. Are we talking the school band? Or
Yeah, for sure. School band. So middle school was I played the flute and the xylophone. I could read the sheet music of the xylophone, so she put me back there. High school, I was really tired of the flute. That was a grandmother that influenced me to do that, and then I was on the drum line for a year. 2 years, and then I did something else. So
the drums, that's a thing. So I feel like the drums, if you're a drummer first, it helps you so much with guitar, because, like,
I can see that.
As much as people want to just get up there and shred a bunch, like, every style of guitar, it doesn't matter what it is, you have to have rhythm, and it's like the hardest thing in the world to teach somebody.
It is. Like, I've never really tried to teach anyone rhythm, but it was hard for me to grasp it on the guitar, but I had to step back and think in the mindset of just rhythmic first, and then the chords. You know, I kind of did it backwards learning, because I was just, at the time I picked a guitar back up in my late 20s, it was basically just a self-expression thing, so I wasn't even paying attention to what I was doing. I was it's pretty ass backwards, but it worked out. So
yeah, I mean, I think about the way a lot of people, like, everyone learns differently first and foremost, but like I feel like everyone approaches the guitar in a different fashion. So like, I mean, I was one of those kids that like grew up and I'm just like, I just want to be, you know, like, have long hair, just play guitar, be super cool, just, you know, distortion and loud, and, you know, I was pretty much that guy, you know, whatever. So it's like, I'll look up some tabs, I'll learn a couple songs, everybody will think I'm cool, you know, or whatever. And it wasn't until my, you know, late 20s where I was finally like, I'm going to figure out actually how to play this thing, which is like a sad thing, you know. But I mean, I kind of did it the wrong way too. I had like gear and things and didn't really know what I was doing with any of it.
Yeah, but also in a sense, think about had you done it any other way. You have your own tasteful way to play your guitar now, and I think that leads into that, or has a big chunk to do with that. Because I can tell you up here, I can spot players, and you were one of the first ones that I was catching on to, like, oh, that's Peter Stockdale. Oh, that's Peter Stockdale.
Hooray!
Yeah, no, like, you have your own style, but it's still clean, crisp, and basically what's expected as a lead guitar player, if that makes sense.
That's nice. That's very cool, because I actually have, I don't know, I talked about this actually in the very outro of the last episode. Everyone goes through this, but I'm in like a funk where I feel like I'm not 100% sure if I'm a good guitarist. And I feel like everyone goes through that, and it's just a plateau or whatever, you know. I just need to do something to change it up a little bit, but I can't figure out what it is, and until I figure out what that is, I'm probably just gonna be like, bleh. But I really appreciate the compliment. It's
yeah, for sure.
It comes back to, I think, what you said earlier, though, where it's like I kind of don't want to step on anyone's toes. So like when I first started playing with Clint and at these jam nights and things, it was just like I'll just play like rhythm guitar. I'll just play whatever chords he's playing. I'll just back him up or whatever, you know. And then I started figuring out like I could plug a lead in here and I can plug one in here. And if you start like doing that every now and then, the easiest way to figure out you're doing something wrong is if somebody like snaps their head over and it's just like, oh, like, none of that, no more of that.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
So you start to figure out what people appreciate and what they don't appreciate, and then you just try not to step on their toes, you know. When he's singing, I probably shouldn't be just wailing away and doing stuff, and it took me a while to figure that out, because I wasn't much different than you, though. Like, I didn't play around here, and when I would be at home not playing in Des Moines, I would just sit down in the basement and play along to like jam tracks. And it's just like, oh, I'll just learn how to solo playing along to all these rhythm tracks with no words. And then when songs actually have words, you have to figure out how to avoid these words, which is something I didn't realize was a thing, you know?
Yeah, but you're pretty much, you go in the pocket.
I try so
no,
hard.
You do.
Stay out of the way.
Yeah.
So how does one transform, I mean, this is just something I kind of was thinking of. How does one transform a poem into a song? Because songs have like verse, chorus. I mean, not all songs.
Right.
But like, do you, I mean, it almost never happens this way with poetry, but do you like write poetry with like, whatever they call it, where you recall like a certain line, when you come back to it, just change it a little bit, and then you're like, oh, that's a perfect chorus change right there, or whatever, you know?
So, no, I don't. Some of my songs is just a poem. There's no structure to it as far as songs. Actually, a lot of them are, and then I realized that it was somewhat disrespectful to all, like, to be call yourself a songwriter and actually not put effort into the structure, right? So now it's like I'll write, and then whatever I feel is the strongest point of that, whatever I wrote, I'm not going to call it a poem or a song, that'll be the chorus.
Okay.
And then if I need to think of something else, I'll try to put something else in there.
So you can actually be like amending these poems, even if they're like older or whatever, to make them fit what you need.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess I never really thought about that. Like a poem, I was just thinking, like, when you're done writing it, it's done, you know, like that's the end of it. You can't do anything else with it. But like, I guess why couldn't you add to it or take away from it?
It's like all goes in music, right? And art. Like, it took me a while to realize that, but the more I think about it, and the more I think about like my influences and stuff and how they've influenced me, it's like, you know, anything goes.
It's true. I mean,
with lyrics, we won't say instrumentals, but like,
well, to an extent, if you lean hard enough one direction or another, you can kind of get away with doing whatever you want. Like,
that's true.
I would say that Bob Dylan would be one I would point at, especially for like singer-songwriters. If you sit down and count 1, 2, 3, 4 to a lot of his songs, you're like, this ain't lining up very well, you know, like, because he kind of just just meandered his way through the song the way he wanted to do it,
Yes.
And when you listen to it, it's just like, this sounds amazing or whatever, because it's a well-written song. But at the same time, it might not necessarily, some people might be like, that's not actually really good music writing, because it's, you can't write,
And see, like, I don't mean to interrupt, but when I first started playing again, I was surrounded by those assholes. The ones that were like, hey, that's not how you do that, and that's not how you do that. And that was embedded in my mind until I started paying attention to Bob Dylan. Yeah. Literally. And I was like, you know what? Bob Dylan did his own thing, and he's still famous. Like, screw those guys.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, call in if you know. Bob Dylan, didn't he win a Nobel Prize?
I'm not going to agree to that, but I think you're right.
I think that's correct.
Don't want to lie to you.
Light me up on Facebook if you find out that's wrong and you just want to laugh at me. But yeah, I mean, that was one of the first ones, because I had some people like, hey, can you teach me some Bob Dylan? It's like, yeah, I can. And then you teach them how to play it, and they're like, this doesn't go like it does with the song. And it's like, that's because he's got his own style that's so unique. I mean, we could just change this up like that when you want to, but I'm not going to put him down, but everyone knows this is what I'm going to say. You're talking about like making songs and like singing and stuff. Like, he's not even like the best singer, honestly.
Right.
Like let's just call a spade a spade. It's an acquired taste.
It is an acquired taste.
It's not a taste I enjoy.
And I think it takes, to be a Bob Dylan fan, like, besides appreciation for music and everything of that, I think it takes, you're going to dig the tune, you're going to dig the lyrics, and then you're going to accept the tone that he's singing in.
Yeah.
It's like you accept his voice because everything else is so strong.
Okay, I 100% agree with that, actually. That's my argument always for Neil Young. When people are just like, I hate Neil Young because he's all like, so when he sings, and it's like, ignore all that, take all the lyrics, and just be like, look at all this stuff he's writing, listen to the songs, like...
Right, like it's...
Plus his like 1970s BBC special was like insanely good. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it.
Gonna have to note that.
Oh yeah, it is amazing. It's like on YouTube. He's younger, and spends a lot of time fishing around in his pockets for different harmonicas and making jokes. But it's really good.
Nice.
So, but yeah, I mean, so who are some of your biggest influences when it comes to writing music? I'm sure we've uncovered Bob Dylan. Yes,
Bob Dylan. I would say he more encouraged me than influenced me, if that makes sense.
I like that.
So when I first started playing again, Brandi Carlile was someone I was heavy into. Mm-hmm. And that was more of, she's phenomenal, obviously. This was back in 2018, so she was still kind of on the singer-songwriter train, and don't know what she's on now, but she's doing fantastic. And then Emmylou Harris, that connected me to Emmylou Harris.
Okay.
But that was more so just females are doing it, like... let's get it. Mm-hmm. But as far as my songwriting and my playing, John Prine, I know he's a lot of people's influencer, but he taught me like anything goes in lyrics. Like, don't even worry about what you're saying. Like,
he'll drop an F-bomb randomly in the nicest song in the world, and it's like, what?
Yes, and then he'll say, a lady from Venus, her insides were made with gold or lined with gold. Like, what? Like, just, okay, cool. Like, I'm here for that.
That's awesome. No rules. Exactly.
But with John Prine, my thing is like, holy shit, like, I don't have a band. Like, and he does. I compare myself. And then I came across Blaze Foley. He's a singer-songwriter from Austin, Texas, back in the day. And it's just him and his guitar, and he's a storyteller. And when I heard this guy, and I don't know a song off the top of my head, but if anyone has not heard of Blaze Foley and you're into singer-songwriters, look this guy up. He is incredible. As soon as I heard him, I was like, I could do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He is just phenomenal. And his songs are crazy. They're good. They're heartbreakers. They're ragers. But it's all acoustic guitar behind him. Mm-hmm. And it's awesome. Guy Clark, also another songwriter that influenced me heavily. Who else? Shania Twain. Gotta say Shania Twain, girl power, but she made her way to the top regardless of anything. She has that message like, you can do it. Anyone can do this, especially a female in the industry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about, I hope I didn't lose this. How you kind of compare yourself to some of these people, and they're like, well, John Prine had a band or whatever, and this person has a band or whatever. It's Jesse Wilson's got a band, or Clint Riedl's got a band or whatever. But I definitely think that it's not the whole fact that they went out and made a band and stuff like that. I think that they just attract those people, and they can. And I'm not trying to say they're this good that this could always happen, but like they can just kind of make a band anytime they want to, if they wanted to.
For sure.
I mean,
I agree with you 100%. So this was like my premature attitude back in the day, right, when I first started. But that's actually something that's recently clicked with me, is like, you know what, like I can eventually have a band. It's not just that I need one right now. And I'm actually just now open to the idea of, and having the confidence of, hey, maybe I could get a band, but jam night's going to have to happen a lot more before I get comfortable. But yeah, definitely. I know it's not, overnight, just like, hey, be in my band. Let's make this band,
Well, you never know.
But it was just one of those things where I would say, oh, okay, so I can write this song because John Prine wrote this song. But then it was like, well, shit, like looking for success is like, well, he's got a band. It's like, and then Blaze Foley comes along and he doesn't have a band and he's writing kind of more along the lines songs that I write. Mm-hmm. I relate more lyrically with him, and it's just like, okay, this is awesome. And it's helped push me along even further if I wanted to give up, or I'm the person that will think of every reason not to, or every reason it can fail before I think of reasons how it could succeed,
Yeah.
And so they've influenced me is basically just keep going, and it's taught me a lot. So
yeah, I mean, it's so weird because I feel like that mentality is very beneficial in certain situations and very detrimental in certain situations, because you're just like hope for the best, prepared for the worst kind of thing, which is a great way to be. Always be prepared. Boy Scouts motto. Isn't it? What? I don't know. Wasn't it?
It could have been.
I don't know.
It is
sure.
now.
It is now. Always be prepared or whatever. And so I mean, I think that's probably why when the few times I've seen you play, I was always just like, oh, she's been playing for like 10 years or something, because you're so prepared to go into these scenarios and situations.
Well, it's like at that point it's like all in or nothing,
Yeah,
so
true. Yep, sink or swim, jump in the deep end.
And I get distracted sometimes when I'm playing.
So how many songs did you play somewhere before you actually went up and played one of your own songs? Or was that the first song you ever went up to like an open mic night and played? Because I mean, I don't know. Like the first open mic night song I played was whatever. I think it was like "Going Down" by Freddie King. It's just like so whatever. But like, so I didn't write it. But everyone thinks I wrote it at the jam nights when I play it because people hear uncultured swine. No, I'm just kidding. There's a bunch of musicians I don't know, so I'm just kidding. Everyone, don't hate me. But yeah, so what was the first song you played at a jam night? Let's just start there.
Okay, so it was an open mic?
Yep.
Are you talking about jam nights up here?
Anything. Yep. So the first time you went up in front of a microphone and sang for people.
Kind of my luck has been so far in music. So the first time I ever played in front of anyone, it was at a bar in Purcell, Oklahoma. It was called Bellstar Saloon, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the band Reed Southall band. They're really popular in the South. They're making their way everywhere.
See, I don't know. Now I'm uncultured.
Well,
Came right back around pretty quick.
I love that. Instant. They have a pretty big following. They've toured with Whiskey Myers,
cool.
Things like that. Co Wetzel and them are big buddies. Parker McCullum, he was at one of the song swaps I was at before he even got big. Anyways, so I'm like, okay, tonight's the night. I'm gonna do it. So they're doing their thing, and I'm drinking a little bit, getting some liquid courage, and then in walks like basically everyone from Reed Southall band, and I'm like, oh shit, like I've already committed to doing this, and of course all of these pristine, in my mind, musicians, like guys that I'm looking up to. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great.
Yep.
So I get up and I sing, and it's original. It was one of the very first songs. It was the first song I wrote on a guitar. Totally butchered it. I blacked out, like out of nerves. Don't even remember anything.
Oh no!
But it was terrible. I quit halfway through, not half. I say 3/4 of the way through, and I was like, "Well, that's all you guys are gonna get. Thank you for listening." And I walk off stage, and everyone just embraced me. They were like, "Hey, like, keep doing it. Like, don't stop." Like,
100%.
They were so humble and so awesome about it. Because had that been the other way, I probably would have never picked up a guitar again.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. I feel like not every music scene and not every place is that supportive. So just be glad you like got into the the right people were there and told you to keep going. It's not that anyone's ever told me to not keep going, but it has happened on one occasion. So
see, there's some assholes out there.
And it was somebody I shouldn't even worry about, and I took such offense to it, and it crushed me deep within my soul. And I'm being serious. It would just ruined me. Like I was just like, I suck at everything, But it's still like it's one of those funny things. Like it's. Nobody's good at anything the first time they do it. And even like, you can practice a million times, and then the first time you have like you put it in common application, you're like, oh, this didn't work out as well. I still need to, because you can't actually prepare for what's going to happen in the real world in any given situation, no matter how many times you practice something.
Right.
You know, I mean, it works that way. Any job you've ever trained for, think about that. It's just like, this is how this is how you make the burgers, and this is how you, whatever, this is how you, I don't care whatever the job is. We're just going to use burger flippers. What do nobody teaches us what to do the first time somebody comes up and yells at you, or a heckler, or,
For sure. For you hecklers out there, it's very discouraging.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
No.
It works.
It does.
Oh my gosh. But also the other end of that is, I will have a microphone, so watch out. It's happened. But yes, so let's keep going. So your first song you ever played was one of yours. You maybe, by your own account, by what you're telling me, you didn't do very well.
No.
But people were still very receptive to the fact that you were up there playing.
Yes, and actually one of my biggest critics, lifelong friend, always told me, like, hey, you're way out of tune, quit singing type person.
Mm-hmm.
He came up to me and he was like, hey, keep singing. And I'd never heard that from him, and we had been friends for so I was like, okay, I think I'm going to keep singing. But yeah, so it was an original that I tried to do, because at that time, I think I'd only known one other song that wasn't something that I was just making up.
Okay.
So I was, what's the word? I wasn't very constructive with my guitar learning. It was just, again, like a creative expression. So I would just pick it up and play. And then finally I was like, hey, I know some chords, and I know I can Google any of these chords to any of these easy country songs. I think I'm going to learn some songs, So
Don't tell everybody how easy it is. No, I'm just kidding. That's how easy it is.
Exactly. Thank you. But I don't know if it's, because I guess naturally I pick. And so at that time I didn't really know how to pick. So I was picking and strumming, and it just sounded terrible. But yeah, it was one of those experiences that is just, you can't make this shit up. It was like these band members walked in first time, and it's just like, wow, awesome.
That is pretty wild to have somebody that, is semi-famous show up to like your very first open mic night, and
they weren't even there. It was like, what? You guys, okay, go ahead of me.
Well, would you rather follow them or be in front of them?
Touche. Yeah.
That's a tough one. Following, we talked about that the last episode. You got to ride the wave if you're following somebody. Just ride the wave. Just go with it. That would have been one of those situations where if I played after somebody and I didn't do very good and it was like a solo set, I'd just be like, wow, that other band was really good, huh? And
I'd give it up for.
Just try to put some comedy in on the mix or something. I don't know, but
yeah, you have to.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, do you have any? Well, I guess we can keep going. I'm going to keep going on this topic because when did you first start playing? Did you collecting songs where you're like, this seems like it could be a set that I could play somewhere?
Okay, so I had not ever really even thought about creating a set. Again, this is just my weird brain at the time, because I was just doing it until I was invited to play that break at a restaurant called the Bendigo's in Hochatown, Oklahoma, back home. And they're like, hey, we're going to play in 2 weeks. We want you to play the break. And I'm like, okay. I don't even know if I have enough songs. They were like 30 to 45 minutes. And I was like, okay, shit. That's when I had to start writing down, what songs do I sing and what songs do I sing well? What songs do I not, And so it was just in that moment that I was like, got to make a set. And so it was like a 45-minute set that I did. And it was probably about 60-40, 60 original, 60% original, 40% my own.
Did you feel more comfortable playing the originals or playing your own?
No doubt originals.
Why is that?
Because covers. No doubt covers. I was very more comfortable playing covers because originals are so vulnerable.
Yeah. I feel like there's enough music out there, though, that I would just slam an original in there and just be like, yeah, Steve Joe Bob wrote that one. And just
No doubt. I'll probably do that next time.
That's so hilarious. And just like, oh, yeah, that's me, by the way.
Yeah.
Whatever. Or how awesome would it be to ghostwrite the songs under a different pen name and then just show up as your regular name and play them and just be like...
Making that note, too.
So, it could be a thing. It could be a pretty funny thing, too, where people don't know, you are who you are. What is it? Garth Brooks... Chris Gaines.
Yes, okay.
But cooler than that. I'm talking, you know.
Yeah, like he was already Garth Brooks. Like I feel like you should do Chris Gaines first and then come out as Garth. I don't know.
Oh man, honestly, I don't know. It's whatever.
And you know, like how I collect songs, it's been like a year's span. It's like I don't just say, hey, I'm going to learn that song. It's like I'll hear a song or I'll think of a song. I'm like, hey, I'm going to learn that song. Until recently, now it's like, okay, if I really want to play music, like my own, not just breaks, I'm going to have to learn some covers that may not mean shit to me.
Yeah, it's unfortunate but true.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest struggle. But if that's the biggest struggle, I think I'll be just fine.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's... I don't know. I almost don't want to say it, but hey, that's what the podcast is for. I play a lot of songs I don't necessarily enjoy. I would never go on my Spotify and listen to them. I would never, if they were playing in a room, I might walk out kind of deal. But there's something to be said about the fact that when you're playing music and other people are enjoying it, that is just like, I'm doing a good thing. I'm doing something that these people enjoy, regardless of whether or not I enjoy it. You know, and maybe that's like my brain in some twisted fashion, just be like, oh, I'm a good person because I'm doing these people a favor or something. But like, it's what, like, I guess to me, it's just you're bringing the party is what you're doing, you know, and people are enjoying it. And
yeah, you're making people happy. There's nothing wrong with liking make.
Honestly, or was it Jeff Lynne from ELO? Is that his name? I think I got it right. Yeah, the guy from ELO, the guy that sings in that band. Electric Light Orchestra. They had like Turn to Stone and all those songs. Evil Woman.
Okay, yeah.
Evil Woman.
Yes.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so that guy was also in Traveling Wilburys.
Interesting.
So do you usually stick to playing singer-songwriter stuff? Have you ever picked up an electric guitar? Because I guess I've only ever seen you with an acoustic.
So recently here in Iowa, I went to the pawn shop and I bought an electric guitar.
Aha!
Yes, and I have my amp with me, and so my next thing is I really want a delay pedal, just a little delay on some notes or maybe reverb. I don't know, but I've messed around with them before and they're amazing. But yeah, so just recently started with the electric. It's a whole nother animal, but as far as like maneuvering and navigating the neck, I feel like it's going to be a little bit easier than acoustic.
Yeah.
But I love it. I've not plugged it in a very long time, probably 2 or 3 months, but I absolutely love it.
That's fun though, that you're just like, you're here and you're like, I might get an electric guitar. Let's go see what the pawn shop has. You just go snag one off the wall and like, this thing's coming home with me.
Yes, and it's not very expensive. I bought it for like $120, but it's beautiful to me. It's like a maroon, it's worn. I want to say it's a Telly.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't really remember. That's terrible. I just was like, hey, I want that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how I picked my first guitar. I saw somebody playing one of those, and I want that one.
Nice.
It'll be cool just like that person.
Well, you know, I have, like, electrics. It's like either Telecaster or you have... the
Stratocaster.
The Stratocaster. Yep. Or you have the Les Paul, the Gibson, the Les Paul. And you have those people that just... or stick to those, right? Mm-hmm. Me, I want like one of everything because the Les Paul is more like Led Zeppelin, and you know the Telly or the Stratocaster is Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yes. Yep. I'm just overthinking at this point, but yeah.
That's okay.
So.
But yeah, I mean, I totally get it though. Like what we're talking about with the different types of guitars, and just kind of like you kind of want one of everything. Because I definitely have like gear acquisition syndrome. It's just that thing where you just buy too much stuff, or like, this is too good of a deal to pass up and it'll never come around again, so I better buy it now. And then it's like, do you need it though? And it's like, no, but
you'll use it.
I'll use it once and I'll just be like, there, I was justified in spending money, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But different guitar tones, they tell a different story. And this is deep. I'm a deep person. I swim in the deep end. But like, I have so many different stories to tell. And so like, I want one in my collection, one of each in my collection, my future music.
It also explains why you, like, when we were talking about electric guitars, like one of the first things you mentioned was how you kind of want like a delay pedal or a reverb pedal, something to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's a new flavor, it's a new sound that you know, might not be on the amp that you have if you have whatever kind of amp, you know,
right.
Depending on, whatever you got. But
terrible. I don't even know. It's PV, I think.
Oh man, that breaks my heart. PV's the best.
Well, I know it was a gift. My dad got it for me, and I was just like, "Hey, thanks!" And then I packed it up and brought it here, and I haven't really messed with it a lot. But
hey, PV makes some fun stuff. They make some fun stuff. You know that I play PV stuff, but yeah, I don't know. As far as like picking a guitar out, I used to just be like, first guitar I brought with a Strat. I just gotta be one of those cool Strat guys or whatever. Well, it was just like Les Pauls, Les Pauls, Les Pauls. I was all Les Pauls, and ever since then I've kind of like finally started branching out a little bit. But
what do you normally take to jam night?
A PV-T60.
Okay.
It's like a good PV was like, let's make a guitar, and they shaped it kind of weird, and it just looks like a hunk of wood with some crap on it. But it's kind of neat looking though too. At the same time, like it's so weird to describe it. Like, does it look cool? Nah.
Sounds good.
It does sound really good. It does sound really good. Yeah, they wanted to make a guitar that was like, if you twist the knobs and turn the stuff and click the buttons in certain ways, you can kind of get it to sound like a Strat or a Telecaster or a Les Paul, depending on what you do with it. So
I was gonna say Strat. No, Telly. I'm sorry, Telly, because when you're playing the country songs, I feel like that's could be wrong, but
yeah, I mean it's so weird. I prefer a single coil in the neck and a humbucker in the bridge.
Nice.
But that kind of sounds, less Paul over here and more Telly over there, more Strat over there. So that's, you're pretty much spot on, but it's pretty much just like a switchblade guitar. It's a little bit of everything. You can play it with anything, but yeah, I definitely, I wish you luck on the guitar quest, because I'll tell you what, I've bought and sold a handful, and I still need to sell a few to justify why, I don't know, but
I've done pretty good at like holding back on buying all the guitars. Now I do have 2 keyboards, and I'm thinking about another one, but just because I don't have one here. But the guitars is like, I like the Breedlove, I like the Martin, obviously a Taylor. Like each one of every make, I'm gonna like at least one style or one model that they make, and so it's been really hard. But I thank you for the luck.
Breedlove has a handful of ties to Iowa. I can't remember exactly what it is. Tom Bedell, maybe one of the CEOs or co-founders or something, was from Iowa, or maybe they both were.
Isn't there some? I was at Sneakers a few months ago, and there was a guy there playing. It was either Scott or Adam was the first name, and he was talking about a festival he's doing in October somewhere here. Breedlove is supposedly, allegedly sponsoring that and giving like 2,000 acoustic guitars, so it'll be like Guinness World Records of the most acoustic guitar played in one song.
Yeah, that's something Scott Kirkhart's been trying to work out for a while. Yeah, for sure.
Is that a thing? Do you know?
I don't know if it's a thing. He has not like publicly said anything, so it's still just a rumor. But
Scott.
Yeah, but it's a thing, and it's crazy to think that like, how's there somebody that's like lives around here working on something that wild,
Well, yeah, but the Breedlove is what surprised me, because I'm like, hey, like they range in prices, but like that's a good made guitar. Like
even the cheap ones are nice.
Yeah,
there's a few companies that are like that.
I'm like, how the hell did they get somebody to donate 2,000? And it was like, because they're connected to Iowa in some way.
Yep. So that kind of makes sense. There are a few cool guitar companies around Iowa that have connections to Iowa in some capacity or another. But yeah, I mean, Built Guitars is one. I think they're out of, don't quote me, this is wrong. It's Des Moines, but it's not Des Moines. I don't know where it is. I think it's Des Moines, but yeah, they're based out of Iowa somewhere. I think the guy from the Killers plays one.
Wow.
And so
that's amazing.
It's kind of a neat way to get your name out there. But yeah, I've seen those kind of floating around and stuff. But so now you got me intrigued. You said you have a couple keyboards, and I know you have an acoustic, and I know you have an electric. You said you play harmonica, so I'm assuming there's probably a harmonica hanging out somewhere. Are you somebody that's just like, do a banjo and just like buy it, and then you're just like, I'm gonna learn how to play this kind of, or like, do you have like ukuleles and stuff hanging around, or like mandolins, or like just trumpets and saxophones just like sitting in the corners at your place? Or like
I really wish I did. I really wish I did. No, I've just acquired instruments, different scenarios. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna learn that, I'm gonna buy that. Now, the violin or the fiddle is something that I did purchase with the intent to learn. I don't have that anymore, so didn't work out. But harmonica was something. I had a lot of buddies early years of college play a guitar, and they needed a harmonica, so I was like, screw it, I'll pick it up and try to play it. Purchased the crap out of it, but it was still there. It was finally got to where I know how to get in the pocket. So no, it's just acquired. If needed, I'm going to try it, and I'm going to be terrible. But I just like being in that moment playing music. Like, it's just something that I'll play the spoons if you'll let me.
I'm actually mind blown. There's not more people that play, and I get it, like technology and whatever. But really surprised there's not more people that play those like simple handheld, easy instruments like the spoons. Like you can carry these in your pocket and play along to anything. You know, harmonica, same deal. Harmonica's a little different. You can't play along to every song with the same harmonica. But you can, no, you couldn't. It'd be horrible. It would kind of work, but
I think because there is techniques though to the harmonica and spoons. Because I'm one of those like, oh, I'll do it, I can do it, and then I'm doing it. And I'm like, oh shit, I can't do this.
Is tough,
like
yeah.
there's actually skill and techniques, and that was ignorance on my end. But so it's not as easy as it is. But I'm willing to try it in a group setting. It's usually when we're all drinking and no one's really gonna remember.
Yeah,
so that's how I've acquired all of those playings.
That's actually not a bad way to go about doing it, though. It's just like, well, nobody's going to care about any of this, So I might as well just go out there and do it, That's actually that should be your next defense mechanism, because every time you're playing guitar anywhere, people are drinking.
I know, but it's just me up there, Like, as song swaps, I'm way more comfortable doing that, but...
Trying to help you out, quit punching holes in my story here. But it does make me think though, like the harmonica just does blow me away that there aren't just like 40 people here that know the harmonica, because it like fits in your shirt pocket or whatever,
right.
I mean, not that nobody has shirt pockets anymore.
Pants pocket.
Nobody works anymore. No, just kidding. I guess that's wrong podcast.
Their fanny packs. It's in their fanny packs.
Oh man, that'll be the next app. It'll just be like a phone. Like all phones have harmonicas in the sides of them, But
here for it.
I don't. Oh my gosh. So do you have? Now we're gonna go back to the acoustic guitar talk. So acoustic guitar, we're talking electric guitar tones and different things you can do with it. The acoustic guitar is just an acoustic guitar. There's really like not too much you can do with it. There are actually a couple of acoustic guitars that have onboard like resonance effect systems. I do know there's a few people around here that like have played them live and own them. But they're really neat. You can like turn up, like you can make your guitar have chorus, and it all just comes right out the sound hole based on like a little preamp that's in there picking up the resonance of the guitar and then just like sending it right back out. So it's really kind of neat and like sounds weird, but like you can add like chorus and I think delay or maybe reverb, or maybe a combination of them. I felt a sprinkle, but yeah. So like there are guitars you can add a little bit of effects to, but how do you keep from getting bored with an acoustic guitar then? Because I mean, keyboards, you got all sorts of buttons and wheedly bits over here and stuff you can do stuff to. That's my extent of playing keyboards.
When you ask that, like I think I get more bored with the keys than I do with the guitar, and I think it's because guitar I'm just constantly learning. The keys, it's like you have, I don't remember exactly how many, C to C. You have so many, but it's just the range, but it's the same. Mm-hmm. Guitar, is versatile the right word? Like versatile. It's like you can put your finger on this string and this string and pluck these two strings and do it again in a different area and it's going to sound completely different, or change your formation, or I don't know. I guess I'm more intrigued with the guitars because it's more of a challenge, and that sounds how it sounds, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. So I'm every time I play a guitar, it's a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you explained exactly like kind of what I was trying to get at earlier, where like I learned music theory with a piano, because you have like a section this big and then it repeats itself and it's the same pattern over and over and over, and like seeing those patterns on a guitar is not as easy, because it's like you go up 12 frets and then it's the same note, but
right.
We can go down a string and up 7 frets and it's the same, or you can go down 2 strings and over 2 frets and it's the same, just an octave up, or it's like, oh my gosh, like this is so wild to think that.
And you know what's terrible is, like, as far as guitar goes, I have not learned one scale.
Went a long time before I ever learned to scale.
I think that maybe is why I think of it so structured on the piano, because I did learn sheet music. But guitar is like I'm just picking it up and I'm making sounds, and whatever sounds good, I'm going to go with.
Do you think that's why? Do you enjoy playing the guitar? Well, you kind of just said you kind of sometimes get more bored with the keyboards and the guitar. Do you think that's why you enjoy the guitar more? Is because you don't feel like you're regimented on it?
Probably.
Because you weren't just like da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Right. And it's like the same melodies over and over and over.
Over and over and over and over again. My sister played the piano, so I got to hear that non-stop. But
nice.
Yeah.
Those are the best.
It's a thing.
I will say, is it Wellburn's Music here in town?
Who's
is it Wellburn?
Reman's?
Yeah,
Reman Music.
Them. There's a Wellburn's in Durant, Oklahoma. That's where I'm getting the mixture. we went in a couple weeks ago, and I sat down on a keyboard first in months. And as soon as I played it, though, I just felt alive.
Oh.
And so I don't know. Let me get another keyboard in front of me for and that answer may be different. But it was just like as soon as it played, it was like I was home. I was like, here it is. And I don't know. I guess I just don't know.
So yeah, there's no right or wrong way to answer that question, I guess. But you must answer. Give me a fight. No, I'm just kidding.
Repeat the question.
What keeps you from getting bored with a guitar was one of them.
Oh, because I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we answered that one, and then we got on a sidetrack. That's correct.
I do that a lot.
Hey, it happens. We didn't really have much of a plan going into this, and you did send me like a little dossier of like, this is the basic stuff, and it's over there on my phone, and I can't look at it. So
I think we've covered most of it.
We did most of it. We are 54 minutes in. It's just close to an hour, and I don't want to just sit here and run dead air time and just try to like think of more questions. But is there anything that like I have not talked about that was something you might like want to bring up? Was there like anybody super influential in your life musically, or was there anything like that we didn't quite talk about, or shout-outs?
Ton of shout-outs.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one because once you start, you can't stop. I can't forget this person. Now I can't name everybody.
I will do a couple shout-outs. just a few. Not a lot. Just physically in person shout-outs. Clint, one of them. Mm-hmm. So welcoming. We said that at the very beginning. But Carl Crosby, he is a bassist, pianist in Southeast Oklahoma that has just been so supportive, so real. Like, hey, homie, like you gotta tune your B string, like it's going out, or D string, or whatever. But he has always been there to encourage me and to critique me. So shout out to him. And also a shout out to my little sister. She's also been the same. Like, she heard me be terrible, and she's heard me, to where I'm at now. And if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't even be singing in public.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. Has she always been this supportive? Let me ask you that.
She's not been unsupportive. Just when I was terrible, she's not the type to just sit back and, say, oh, you should do that. She's just like, oh, yeah. And then when she found out that I was invited to play that set last year, she was like, you've got to do it. Mm-hmm. She's like, there are far worse people doing this, and you need to do it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'll tell you what, somebody brought that up on a podcast about 100 episodes ago, and it's the sad but real truth.
And you know what, though? Like, good for them.
Yeah.
Like, do it, but in a sense, it's like, I don't want to be remembered as the girl that got up there that thought she could and she couldn't. True,
but also you got to think, like, how much time did you waste being scared to get up there in front of people when these people were just like, I'm just going to do it from the start?
Yes.
That's the thing I look at with them is
totally.
Like, they have a jump start on this that's so much farther ahead of me, just based on the fact that they made a goal and did it, or just like chose to do it and did it, just made their mind up. And it's like, and here I am, I'm just like, no, I don't know if anybody's going to like me.
Yeah.
And I hate to just sound like that guy, but everyone has those thoughts a little bit in their brain sometimes. So it's just like, just
sure.
Maybe I'll go up there, I guess.
I didn't realize how big mine was, until this. So thanks for that, though, for sure. I hope to walk away with an expanded mindset.
Well, I don't know.
I will, but hope it sticks.
It'll definitely stick. I mean, I feel like your time up here, your time before coming up here has influenced you to be the person that you are, and your time here has just kind of reinforced that. It's just kind of, which is the best part about this music scene around here. And like I said, it's not like other music scenes are negative. I've talked to people from around the state. They love it where they're at. They found people they enjoy, and it works. But there's so much support going on up here that people, like you said, are just inviting you to play. Like, come play my breaks. I'll give you money. And it's like, what?
Yeah, I'm
For
like,
real?
Keep your money. Just give me the time. Like, what? Thank you.
It's so crazy, So it's wild to think there's people out there that are doing that. And it's I just wish you nothing but the best of luck in the future. And just eyes forward, keep rocking. It's just one of those things. I know you're kind of just quote unquote getting started, but yeah, it's like we said earlier, you definitely have the talent for this, and there's plenty of people out there doing this that might not have the talent, and that was like me included when I first started, because I'm not like the best singer, and people are like, you're okay, and it's like, yes, I'm okay, but I can't do it alone. I'm not the best at it, and I've done shows alone, and it's rough. I was kind of that guy, So don't take your talent lightly.
Well, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else?
But I think that's it.
All right, we're gonna end it here. I really appreciate you sitting down talking with me.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. Till next time.
Till next time.
All right. I don't know if I could count with all my fingers and toes how many people the podcast has introduced me to that I've never met, really, that I've sat down and talked to and got the opportunity to talk to. And it feels nice. It feels nice to get to know these people. It feels nice to, in some capacity, kind of chronologically describe how they got to where they were at this certain point in time, and then you have a little snapshot of their history here. It's just kind of neat. I was talking to somebody recently, and they were like, I listen to a lot of the podcasts. I listen to everyone that has one there that's somebody that I know, and I thought to myself, that's awesome. It's great, because it's kind of how I listened to a majority of podcasts for a long, long time, especially like the comedy podcasts. And then it was like, you know what, there's probably comedy gold hiding out in some of them hills. So I went through some of the podcasts with people I didn't know, and I found some of my favorite comedians that way. So I kind of hope something kind of like that happens with at least this in some capacity, where people will backtrack and go through and listen to a few of the ones they haven't listened to. So hey, you know what? If you didn't know Nesha and you just ran into this episode and you were like, hey, I got all the way to here and I listened to this one and I got to know Nesha and I saw her at a jam night or something and I never got to talk to her either. Well, boom. This all worked out wonderfully, and I'm really appreciative. I'm appreciative of you listening, and I'm appreciative of Nesha for taking time out of her day to come and talk to me. She has not played too many shows in the Iowa area, but it's one of those things. I think I well know she's capable. I've tried to convince her to come up at breaks at certain places when I'm playing shows, and she sometimes turns us down and whatever, but at jam nights she's usually up there doing some singing. So it's one of those things that I feel like as much as people are willing to and as much as they're comfortable with, I'm okay with enabling them to have as much fun doing that as they want to, at least with music. So hey, if it's one of those things. I've played a lot of shows recently, and I talked about it on a podcast not too long ago, how there's starting to become openers on local shows, which is honestly pretty cool. Doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough, and I think it's just a fun way for people to kind of get to know other musicians in the area, whether it be the venues or the fans or whoever happens to be at the show. So hey, one more time, Nesha, thank you very much for sitting down and talking with me. I appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I had a great time sitting down talking with her, and I hope I'm doing a good job of prying into the questions and diving in deep like I need to, talking to these people. I always sit there and think, like, if I was listening to this as a podcast driving down the road, what would be the thing I would be yelling at the radio saying, I want to ask this, I would have asked that. So I try to ask those kind of questions without being ridiculously invasive, of course. But, hey, what I can get out of people is plenty good. And Nesha did a great job on this episode, especially with being honest about, being nervous or the first shows or what she thought about things. And that's what makes these good episodes. So once again, thank you very much for checking that out. I don't think Nesha has any social media pages. So I know she has some social media accounts, so there probably won't be any links down below, but unfortunately for her. But there are some Audible Farm links down below. If you guys are looking for Audible Farm goodies, it's down there below. There's audiblefarm.com. That has links to everything, all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe, like, follow, and share on all of those. And you can listen to the latest episode from there, or listen to it on YouTube or wherever you're listening to it now. And wherever you are listening to it, go ahead and leave us a review. 5 stars. Leave us something in the descriptions. 1 star even. I don't care. Just something in there. Whatever you need to do. Leave us a review. A little description of what you think about the podcast. It takes 2 seconds for you, and it makes me smile for a long time. So thank you guys very much for doing that. Hit subscribe on YouTube if you'd like to. Otherwise, the Audible Farm shop is available at shop.audiblefarm.com. And guess what? The hoodies are in. I just got to get them shipped. They're done. They're ready. I didn't want to make the journey to go pick them up, so I'm going to let them get shipped, and the shipping time does not take long. So maybe by the time this episode comes out. Maybe not quite by then. But yeah, they'll definitely be reactivated in the shop soon. Very, very soon. This week. Keep checking it. Go to the shop. Spam the shop. Say, I want those hoodies. Comment on this episode somewhere and say, hoodies, yes, or something. Yeah, but thank you guys very much for listening. Those hoodies are coming in. Everyone that pre-ordered one, I will be contacting you shortly with your hoodie. So thank you guys. And then I'll have some left over, and when they're gone, I'm not sure. Last time it took me like a year to get more hoodies in, so I guess if you want one, you might want to snag one. And yeah, I appreciate everyone that did the pre-ordering and anyone that's bought any Audible Farm merch or anything. And yeah, one little anecdote before I take off. I played a show this week with Three Finger Betty on a Tuesday early show, which you know, I guess if you're in the local music scenes around, Tuesday early shows don't necessarily draw like too big of a crowd. But guess who did show up to the show? Lee Klett, who's been on the podcast before. He drove to a show in Des Moines to watch Three Finger Betty play. Hats off to Lee Klett. Oh man, check him out. I know he's busy this week, starting maybe. Yeah, he's definitely going to be busy this week. This comes out Thursday. Check him out somewhere. I know he's all over the state. He plays with the boys. He plays all across the state, like I said. He plays up in north central Iowa, down to central and western, and you name it. So he's out there crushing it. But thanks for coming to the show, Lee. Appreciate it. It's awesome. Supporting live music. That's how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, appreciate it. I'm out. Peace.